On the coldest night of the year, when the world sparkled with lights and laughter, he found her, tiny, shivering, and hidden among heaps of trash. He was a billionaire CEO with everything money could buy, but in that moment, one small girl sleeping in the dirt would break open his heart and change his life forever. The city was glowing that night. Strings of golden lights ran across tall glass buildings, children pressed their noses against toy store windows, and the sound of carolers floated through the crisp December air. Inside the tallest skyscraper in Manhattan, Alexander Grant, a 41-year-old single dad and the CEO of a billion-dollar tech empire, was finishing up paperwork that most men in his position would have delegated. He had everything: power, wealth, respect, but not peace. Since his wife had died 3 years earlier in a car accident, Christmas was no longer magical. He spent most holidays drowning in work, unable to feel the warmth of the season. His 7-year-old son, Ethan, had begged him earlier that evening to come home and decorate the tree, but Alexander had stayed behind in his office, making promises he wasn't sure he could keep. Finally, near midnight, guilt tugged at him, and he decided to drive home. Snowflakes were beginning to fall as his black limousine slid through the nearly empty streets. But when they stopped at a red light near an alleyway, Alexander's sharp eyes caught sight of something unusual: a tiny bundle wrapped in tattered cloths, curled up against a dumpster. At first he thought it was just discarded rags, but then he saw the small hand sticking out, trembling. "Stop the car," he ordered. The driver hesitated, then pulled over. Alexander stepped out, the cold biting through his expensive overcoat, and walked closer. There she was, a little girl, no older than 6 or 7, asleep on trash bags, her face pale, lips blue, hair matted with dirt. His heart clenched. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. "Sweetheart," he whispered, kneeling down. The girl stirred, opening frightened brown eyes that darted toward him. "Please don't take my food," she muttered, clutching a torn plastic bag filled with stale bread. Alexander froze. The CEO who commanded empires and made billion-dollar decisions was suddenly powerless in front of this fragile child. He gently held out his gloved hand. "I won't take anything. I just want to help you." The girl studied him with suspicion, but her exhaustion was stronger than her fear. Tears burned Alexander's eyes as he lifted her carefully into his arms. Her body was so light, too light. In that instant, Christmas stopped being about work, lights, or luxury. It became about the girl in his arms, and the mystery of why she was sleeping on trash on the holiest night of the year. Alexander rushed her into his limousine, ordering the driver to turn up the heat. The girl whimpered, shivering violently as she curled into the leather seat. He pulled off his scarf and wrapped it around her. "What's your name?" he asked softly. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Lily." The name pierced him. It had been his late wife's favorite flower. He swallowed hard. "Lily, I'm Alexander. Don't be scared. I'll take you somewhere safe." She shook her head quickly, panic flaring in her eyes. "No police. No home." Her words shattered him. This wasn't just a lost child, this was someone who had been running from something. He decided not to push, but his chest ached with questions. They arrived at his penthouse, where the warmth and luxury contrasted painfully with Lily's ragged state. His son Ethan, still awake and waiting for him, ran to the door. "Daddy! You're home. Who's that?" Ethan's bright blue eyes widened as he saw Lily, barefoot and trembling. "This is Lily," Alexander said, his voice tight with emotion. "She's spending the night with us." Ethan, with the innocence only a child could have, simply nodded and took Lily's hand. "Come on. You can share my blanket." The sight made Alexander's throat tighten. While the children disappeared into Ethan's room, he sat alone by the fireplace, staring at the dancing flames. He had seen poverty before, read statistics in reports, even donated millions through his company's foundation, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of one small child suffering in front of him. That night, as the clock struck midnight and the city celebrated Christmas with fireworks, Alexander whispered a silent promise to the heavens: "I don't know who she is or why she's out there alone, but I'll find out. And I'll never let her sleep on trash again." The following days turned into a whirlwind. Alexander hired doctors to examine Lily. She was malnourished but otherwise healthy. Slowly, she began to trust him and Ethan. She laughed for the first time when Ethan shared his toys, and Alexander felt something bloom in his chest that he hadn't felt since his wife's death: hope. Yet the mystery of her past haunted him. Who were her parents? Why was she on the streets? One snowy afternoon, as they sat by the fire sipping hot cocoa, he gently asked again. "Lily, where's your family?" She stared at the flames, silent for a long moment. Then her small voice broke the air. "Daddy went away. Mommy got sick." Then, she stopped waking up. Tears spilled from her eyes. "They took our house. I had nowhere to go." Alexander's world crashed. This little girl had been utterly abandoned, an orphan tossed aside by fate. He pulled her into his arms, his heart breaking. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." But then came a truth that cut even deeper. As his team investigated, they discovered Lily's mother had once worked at one of Alexander's factories years ago. She had been laid off during a restructuring, decisions Alexander himself had signed, never realizing their human cost. The truth hit him like a sledgehammer. His wealth, his success, had indirectly contributed to this child's misery. The guilt was unbearable. That night, as Lily slept peacefully in a warm bed for the first time in years, Alexander stood by her side, tears streaming down his face. "I took everything from you without even knowing," he whispered. "But I swear on my life, I'll give it all back." Weeks passed, and Lily became part of their home. Ethan adored her, and Alexander found himself smiling more, working less, and rediscovering the meaning of family. He didn't just provide for Lily, he started restructuring his company, creating programs to ensure no employee's family would ever face the fate hers had. On New Year's Eve, he announced a billion-dollar initiative for homeless children across America, naming it Lily's Promise. The world applauded, but for Alexander, the applause meant little compared to the sound of Lily's laughter filling his once empty penthouse. On the following Christmas Eve, 1 year later, the tree glittered with ornaments, stockings lined the fireplace, and the aroma of cookies filled the air. Ethan and Lily, now siblings in every way that mattered, were decorating the tree together. Alexander watched them, his heart full, his soul at peace. He thought of the night he had found her on the trash heap, and how that single moment had rewritten the story of his life. Lily tugged at his sleeve, smiling. "Daddy?" The word made his eyes mist. "Yes, sweetheart." She handed him a star. "You put this on top." As he lifted her onto his shoulders, placing the star high above, Alexander realized that Christmas wasn't about gifts, wealth, or even traditions. It was about love. About seeing the unseen. About rescuing someone when the world had turned away. That night, as snow fell gently outside, Alexander whispered a prayer of gratitude. He had gone out on Christmas Eve as a broken man, but he had come back with the greatest gift of all, a daughter who had been sleeping on trash, and who now shined brighter than any star on their tree. If a billionaire CEO could stop his car and change one child's destiny forever, imagine what we can do in our own small ways. Tonight, somewhere out there, another Lily is waiting, hungry, cold, and unseen. Maybe you can't save the whole world, but you can change someone's whole world. Share kindness, open your heart, and never walk past a soul in need. Because sometimes, the greatest gifts are not found under a Christmas tree, they're found in the eyes of someone who thought they were forgotten.